Hello Fanatics, I'm Dylan Phillips and let's talk about Season 6 of Netflix's Orange is the New Black. First, we'll talk about our recap of the show, followed up by our review, and then we'll finish off with telling you if it's worth the watch. Created by Jenji Kohan, Orange is the New Black follows the story of a normally law-abiding citizen who is convicted of a decade-old crime of transporting drug money to an ex-girlfriend and is sentenced to a year and a half behind bars to face the reality of how life-changing prison can really be. So, recap time. The main story of Season 6 revolves around the aftermath of the Litchfield riot that sees the inmates from camp being sent to various facilities. Piper Chapman is sent to Litchfield Max down the road along with the other inmates suspected in the deaths of two COs during the riot. As MCC and the feds try to decide who to pin the riot and murders on, the Litchfield crew try to adapt to life at Max, where Carol and Barbara Denning run different cell blocks that are on the verge of a full-blown gang war. There was a lot of mixed reviews surrounding Season 5, considering its condensed timeline, pacing, and how different the characters were and the direction it took them. With the impending move of the characters out of Litchfield to other facilities, it was evident that the showrunners wanted to reduce the cast to a core group of characters. This season opts to follow three major storylines. The first is MCC and the feds' attempt to try and pin the riots and murders on some of the inmates, Tasty's trial, and the ongoing war between C and D Block. We learn early on that the majority of the returning characters are part of the Pool 11 that the feds and MCC are trying to pin the riots and murders on, and they're trying to choose 5 of them. So this is the storyline in this season that sees the most of the screen time for the returning characters, which is a shame because a lot of these characters are ones that we've grown with and they're essentially thrown to the side for new characters in what I see as a soft reboot. I felt like this storyline could have been a lot stronger as it tackled the themes of betrayal and revenge, but instead of looking deeper into those, it throws the characters on the back burner so that it can focus on the ongoing relationships with the new characters in this prison. Tasty's trial in this season is by far the most impactful and emotional storyline going on through the story, and I found that it was the most compelling thanks to the phenomenal performance by Danielle Brooks. She took command of this story, and it feels like if Piper were to be removed from the story, Tasty would be an easy de facto protagonist. I liked this storyline because it continues along with the commentary on police brutality, specifically toward female inmates, and on top of it, it's a very topical commentary on white privilege both in and out of prison. However, just like the first storyline, Tasty's trial takes a bit of a backseat for the third story. In fact, so much so that rather than dive into Tasty and her reaction to what's going on around her, her storyline is told through the eyes of Joe Caputo, a white man, so it kind of takes away from the emotional cues and impact that it should. This brings us to the most prominent storyline in this season, and that's the ongoing gang war between Carol Denning's C Block and Barbara Denning's D Block. These two sisters have been in prison for a very long time, and they're constantly butting heads, and it's in this storyline that we see the majority of the stuff happening. The problem is that they're trying to make these characters the villains, and yet by this point, we don't see other women in the prison as the villains, but the corporation itself. And there's just a little too much setup here because it's a soft reboot, and in the end, there's not enough payoff. Many of the returning characters get their 5 minutes of screen time in this storyline, but there's not a lot of returning comedic characters with little to no replacements, so that comedic tone that was there is now gone. There are a few decent new characters, in particular Adiola, Daddy, the Dennings, and CO's Ginger, Alvarez, Hopper, and Ward, but the bad outweigh the good. CO Hellman is true to his name in being a shady, truly evil character. His treatment of the inmates was awful to watch and reminds me too much of the unqualified guards in previous seasons. But the worst character of this season, and possibly the entire series, is Madison Battison Murphy, a Boston-bred inmate with a loud mouth. This character was so annoying to watch. Every time she was on screen, it was tedious to get through because she just feels the need to constantly prank people and act out of line, and I just couldn't get behind this character. She was truly just plain annoying. It wasn't even that she was a good villain, she was just bothersome. This unbearable presence is only rivaled by the transformation of Daya. Daya has had a lot happen to her since she started in Season 1, between the pregnancy and her affair with the CO, to everything that's gone on since, and even what happened in Season 5 with the gun and the riot. But now she's taken a turn for the worse, and it seems like her demons are catching up to her. But I just felt like she was so out of character at this point, and every time she was on screen, I really just wanted to fast forward. It doesn't help that a lot of the returning characters are also changed a little bit too. I mean, Red used to be the prison mom, and now she's all of a sudden this revenge seeker, and Alex has basically become the peanut gallery and constantly chimes in with sarcastic and witty remarks. And the lack of Uzo Aduba in this season, the only award winner for this show, shows a lack of focus on the strengths of this series. With so many rumors surrounding the show and its eventual end, it's curious to think where this show could go from here. There was an obvious decline in quality for this season, so could the next one be the last? At the end of this season, we saw Piper get her freedom, Blanca get forced into ICE custody, and Tasty and Daya both receive life sentences. What could be interesting for this show is what a lot of shows do in their final season. Most recently, New Girl did it, and that's fast forward a couple of years. We do know that it's going to be 4 years left on Alex's time until she's finally released. So could fast forwarding to that time in the final season allow us to catch up with those characters and not have to constantly have setup for what is a new scenario for them. So, with the thoughts heard, here's our final word. This season of Orange is the New Black is a step up from the uneven pacing of last season, but its soft reboot causes more problems than it fixes. While some of the new stories and characters are interesting to watch, the more impactful storylines are sidelined for ones surrounding the less interesting aspects of this show, taking the small group of returning characters that were brought to Litchfield Max and throwing them in the shoe. From its change in atmosphere to its new characters, this season is one you'll either love or hate, so I'm gonna say it's worth the watch. And that's our recap and review of Season 6 of Orange is the New Black. If you've seen it, what did you think? And was it worth the watch? Let us know in the comments below. I'm Dylan Phillips, and thanks for watching. If you liked this video and you want to see more, hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Check out our latest Fanatic 5 video, where we discuss the top Mila Kunis roles. Don't forget to follow us on our social media. And until next time, Fanatics, keep it real.